Thanksgiving had always belonged to me, not in a possessive way, never that, but in the quiet, steady way traditions grow roots over time. For more than 20 years, my home had been the asterisk place. The place where the turkey roasted slowly through the afternoon, where the windows fogged from the warmth inside, where laughter echoed louder than the clatter of dishes. I was the one who remembered everyone's favorite dishes: extra gravy for my daughter, less salt for my late husband, sweet potatoes with marshmallows because once, years ago, someone had said they liked them, and that was enough for me to make them every year after. Thanksgiving wasn't just a meal, it was love served warm, and this year I had already started preparing. Lists written in my careful handwriting, ingredients bought early, the good plates taken out from the cabinet, the ones I only used once a year. I even bought fresh flowers for the table. I don't know why that detail hurts the most. 3 days before Thanksgiving, I was standing in the kitchen, checking my list again, when my phone buzzed. I smiled without thinking. It had to be my daughter. Maybe she was calling to ask what time to come, or if she could bring dessert like she always did, even though she never needed to. I wiped my hands on a towel and picked up the phone, but the message wasn't from her. It was from him. My son-in-law, and the moment I saw his name, something inside me tightened. The message was short. Cold, careless, asterisk. We're celebrating at my parents' house this year. Don't come. Asterisk, that was it. No, sorry. No, we'll miss you. Not even a polite excuse wrapped in kindness. Just don't come. For a moment, I thought I had read it wrong. I read it again and again. Each time, the words felt sharper. Heavier. Asterisk, don't come. Asterisk, I stood there in the middle of my kitchen, surrounded by everything I had prepared for a day that no longer included me. The turkey in the fridge, the pie ingredients lined up on the counter, the tablecloth I had already ironed. It all suddenly felt unnecessary, like I had been preparing for a celebration that never existed. I waited. Not for him, for her, my daughter. I told myself she would call. She had to. She would explain, soften it, fix it somehow. She would say, "Mom, that's not what he meant," or "come anyway," or even just, "I'm sorry," but the minutes passed. Then an hour, then another, and my phone stayed silent. That silence hurt more than the message. Because messages can be written in haste, silence is a choice. I sat down slowly at the kitchen table, the same table where we had shared so many Thanksgivings before. I could almost hear the echoes, her laughter as a child, her voice as a teenager arguing about something that didn't matter anymore. Her smile the first year she brought him home. I had welcomed him. I remember that clearly. I had opened my door, my table, my life without hesitation. Because he made her happy, and that was enough for me. But somewhere along the way something changed. Not suddenly, not loudly, just quietly. Small things at first. Plans made without me. Conversations I wasn't part of. Decisions I heard about after they were already made. And now this. Asterisk, don't come. Asterisk, I picked up my phone again. My fingers hovered over her name. I could call. I could ask why. I could say, I've already prepared everything. Or can I at least stop by? I could fight for a place at that table. But something stopped me. A quiet voice inside that said, Asterisk, if you have to ask to be included, you already have your answer. Asterisk, so I put the phone down. No message, no argument, no begging, just silence, the same silence she had given me. The house felt different after that. Too quiet, too still, the kind of quiet that presses against your chest and makes it hard to breathe. I walked around the kitchen, touching things absent-mindedly, the plates, the flowers, the list. All of it suddenly felt like evidence of something foolish. Hope, I don't know how long I stood there before I finally sat down again. And for the first time in years, I asked myself a question I never thought I would need to ask. Asterisk, where do I go for Thanksgiving if not home? Asterisk, that's when I reached for my phone again, not to call my daughter, but to scroll, past names that felt distant, Past numbers I hadn't used in years, past people who had slowly faded from my life, until I saw a name that made me pause. Clara. I hadn't spoken to her in, 10 years, maybe more. Life had taken us in different directions. Work, marriage, responsibilities, those quiet forces that pull people apart without warning. But once upon a time, she had been more than a friend. She had been family, the kind you choose. I stared at her name for a long moment. Then, before I could overthink it, I pressed call. The phone rang once, twice, and then hello. Her voice, familiar, warm, alive. It felt like opening a window in a room that had been closed for too long. I swallowed, suddenly unsure of what to say. Clara, it's me. There was a brief pause, and then her voice lit up in a way I hadn't heard in years. Oh my God, is it really you? And just like that, the loneliness didn't disappear, but it loosened its grip. Just a little, enough for me to breathe again. I didn't know it yet. But that call, that small, simple decision, was about to change everything. I didn't expect much when Clara invited me over. To be honest, I expected politeness, a quiet dinner, maybe a little catching up, the kind of meeting where people try to reconnect, but carefully avoid the years that separated them. What I didn't expect was warmth, real warmth. The morning of Thanksgiving felt strange. For the first time in decades, I wasn't rushing around the kitchen. There was no turkey in the oven, no timers going off, no last-minute grocery runs, no carefully arranged table waiting for people who now had somewhere else to be. Instead, I stood in front of my closet longer than necessary, unsure of what to wear. It felt like I was stepping into a life that didn't belong to me anymore. Or maybe one that I had forgotten I could still have. When I arrived at Clara's house, I hesitated at the door. Not because I didn't want to go in, but because something inside me still whispered, asterisk, what if you don't belong here either? Asterisk, before I could knock, the door swung open, and there she was, Clara, smiling like no time had passed. You're late, she teased gently, pulling me into a hug before I could even respond. That hug, it wasn't formal. It wasn't careful. It was the kind that said, asterisk, you're safe here. Asterisk, and I didn't realize how much I needed that until that moment. The house was alive, that's the only way I can describe it. Voices filled every corner. Laughter, conversations overlapping, music playing softly in the background. The scent of roasted food drifted through the air, rich and inviting, but not overwhelming. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't staged. It was real. Come on, Clara said, taking my hand like she used to years ago. There are people you need to meet. I almost laughed, do I? I asked, half nervous. Yes, she said firmly. Because they need to meet you. She led me into the living room, where a small group had gathered. The conversation paused for a second as we entered, and for that brief moment I felt it again. That old fear of being the outsider. The extra person, the one who doesn't quite fit. But Clara didn't give that feeling time to settle. This, she said proudly, her hand still wrapped around mine, is the woman I've told you all about. I blinked. You've told them about me. Oh, only the important parts, she said with a playful smile. And just like that, something shifted. People didn't just greet me, they welcomed me, not out of obligation, but with curiosity, kindness. Genuine interest. They asked me questions, and actually listened to the answers. They laughed at my stories, even the ones I thought were too simple to matter. No one checked their phone mid-conversation. No one looked past me like I wasn't really there. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't invisible. Dinner wasn't a performance. No one was trying to impress anyone. Dishes were passed around with laughter, not precision. Someone forgot the gravy and ran back to the kitchen, joking the whole way. Another person burned the rolls slightly, and instead of embarrassment, it became the highlight of the table. This is why we don't let him cook, someone teased. Hey, tradition matters. He shot back, and everyone laughed. Even me. I didn't realize how quiet I had become over the years, until I heard myself laughing again. Not politely, not out of habit, but fully, freely. At some point, Clara leaned closer to me and whispered, "You're smiling." I looked at her, confused. So, she said softly, "You weren't the last time I saw you." Her words stayed with me, because she was right. Somewhere along the way I had stopped laughing like this, stopped feeling like this, stopped being this version of myself. After dinner, people moved around the house, settling into smaller conversations. Some gathered in the living room. Others stepped outside with warm drinks, enjoying the cool evening air. The energy didn't fade. It simply shifted into something softer, more intimate. Clara and I found ourselves in the kitchen, side by side, just like old times. "Thank you," I said quietly, drying a plate. "For what?" she asked. "For this," I said, gesturing around, "for not letting me be alone today." She stopped what she was doing and looked at me. "You were never supposed to be alone," she said gently. There was something in her tone that made me pause. Something deeper, but before I could ask, someone called out from the other room, "Clara, group photo." She rolled her eyes playfully. "They do this every year," she said. "You're not escaping." "Oh no," I said immediately. "I'll just stand behind." "No," she interrupted, taking my hand again. "Not today." She led me into the living room, where everyone had gathered. "Right here," she said, positioning me beside her. "I really don't," I started. "You really do," she replied firmly. The camera was raised. People leaned into each other, arms around shoulders, laughter already building before the photo was even taken. And somehow I was part of it. Not at the edge, not in the background, but asterisk in it asterisk. "Ready?" Someone called. "Wait," Clara said suddenly, turning to me. "Smile like you mean it." I looked at her, at the room, at the people who had made space for me without question, and for the first time in a long while I didn't have to pretend. Camera clicked, once, twice, and in those moments something inside me healed, just a little. Later that night, as I sat on the couch scrolling through the photos, I barely recognized the woman on the screen. She looked lighter, happier, like someone who hadn't spent the last few days questioning her place in the world. "Send them to me," I said softly. "Already did." Clara replied with a knowing smile. When I got home, the house was still quiet. But it didn't feel as heavy anymore, because I wasn't carrying the same loneliness back with me. I sat down, opened my phone, and looked at the photos again. Then, without thinking too much about it, I posted a few. No captions full of meaning, no hidden messages. Just a simple line, asterisk, grateful for unexpected moments and the people who make them special. Asterisk, I put my phone down and went to make tea. I didn't expect anything to happen. I didn't expect anyone to notice. I certainly didn't expect what came next. Because within minutes my phone started buzzing, and it didn't stop. At first I thought it was a glitch. My phone buzzed once, then again and again. I glanced at it from across the room, half annoyed, half curious. Notifications weren't unusual, but this felt different, urgent, persistent. By the time I picked it up, the screen was flooded. Messages, missed calls, notifications stacking on top of each other, so quickly, I could barely read them. For a moment I just stared, confused. Then slowly I opened the first message, asterisk asterisk. "Where are you?" Asterisk asterisk, then another. Asterisk asterisk, since when do you know asterisk her asterisk? Asterisk asterisk another. Asterisk asterisk, is that really you in that photo with Clara? Asterisk asterisk, I frowned. Asterisk Clara. Asterisk, of course it was Clara. Who else would it be? I opened the post. The same photos I had uploaded just minutes ago stared back at me. There I was laughing at the dinner table, standing beside Clara, both of us smiling, wrapped in a moment that had felt so simple, so genuine. There was nothing unusual about them, nothing I had intended to show off. So why, my phone rang. I flinched. The name on the screen made my chest tighten. My daughter. For a split second, I considered letting it ring. But I didn't. I answered, "Hello." Her voice came fast, almost breathless. "Mom, where are you?" I leaned back slightly, confused by the urgency. "At home," I said calmly. "I just got back. No, I mean, earlier, those pictures, where were you?" I glanced at the screen again. "At a friend's house," I replied, "for Thanksgiving." There was a pause. Then, "You were at asterisk Clara's asterisk house." Something in her tone shifted. Not anger, not sadness, something closer to shock. Maybe even panic. Yes, I said slowly. Why, another pause. Longer this time. Then she lowered her voice, like she didn't want someone else to hear. Mom, do you know who Clara is? I almost laughed. Of course I do, I said. She's been my friend for years. No, she said quickly. I mean, do you know who she is asterisk now asterisk? And just like that, something clicked. I hadn't thought about it before. Not really. To me, Clara was still the same woman who used to sit on my kitchen floor with a cup of coffee, talking about life like we had all the time in the world. The same woman who once cried on my shoulder. The same woman who had hugged me at the door like I mattered. But to everyone else, she wasn't just Clara anymore. I didn't think it mattered. I said quietly. Didn't, and my daughter exhaled sharply. Mom, it asterisk does asterisk matter. Before I could respond, another call came through. This time I didn't answer, but seconds later a message appeared, polite, carefully worded. Almost unrecognizable. Asterisk asterisk. We didn't realize you had plans with Clara. You should have told us. Asterisk asterisk. I stared at the message. A strange feeling rose in my chest. Not anger, not even hurt. Something colder, clearer. Asterisk, you should have told us. Asterisk, I typed a response. Then deleted it, typed again, deleted that too, because suddenly I understood this wasn't about me. It had never been about me. Another message came, from him again. Asterisk asterisk. We would have made different arrangements. Asterisk asterisk. I let out a small, quiet laugh. Different arrangements, the words echoed in my mind, so easy, so simple, so revealing. If I had spent Thanksgiving alone, nothing would have changed. If I had stayed home, quietly accepting their decision, there would have been no messages, no calls. No concern, but I didn't. I went somewhere else, somewhere I was wanted, and suddenly that mattered. My phone rang again. This time I answered, yes, I said calmly. His voice came through, softer than I had ever heard it before. We didn't know you were close to Clara, he said. I leaned back in my chair. You didn't ask. I replied. Silence. We thought you'd just stay home this year. He admitted. Just stay home. The words landed heavier than he probably intended. I see, I said. He cleared his throat. Well, we're actually thinking of having a small dinner this weekend. Something more intimate. You should come. There it was. The invitation, late, convenient, different. I looked at the photos still open on my screen, at the woman smiling in them. The woman who had laughed without hesitation, who had been welcomed without conditions, who hadn't needed to prove her worth to earn a seat at the table. And for the first time I saw her clearly. I don't think so. I said gently, another pause. This one heavier, why not? He asked. I could have explained. I could have reminded him of the message. Of the silence, of the way I had been dismissed so easily. But I didn't, because he already knew. I have plans, I said simply. It wasn't a lie. After the call ended, I placed my phone down carefully. The buzzing had slowed, the messages had stopped, but the shift that remained, for years, I had quietly adjusted myself to fit into their lives. Made space, made excuses, made peace with things that didn't feel right. But all it took was one Thanksgiving. One message, one decision not to beg for a place I had already earned, and everything changed. I picked up my phone one last time and looked at the photos again. This time I noticed something I hadn't before. It wasn't just the smiles or the laughter, or even Clara standing beside me. It was the way I looked at peace, and somehow that was the part that unsettled them the most. The house was quiet again the next morning, but it wasn't the same kind of quiet. It no longer pressed against my chest or echoed with absence. It didn't remind me of what I had lost. It felt still, peaceful, like something inside me had finally settled after years of shifting to fit into spaces that were never truly mine. My phone lay on the table, silent now. The storm from the night before had passed, messages unanswered, calls ignored, questions left hanging in the air. I knew they would reach out again, not because they suddenly understood, but because now I mattered in a way they could measure. And that was the difference. I made myself a cup of tea and stood by the window, watching the morning light stretch slowly across the street. For years I had believed love meant patience, endurance, forgiveness without limits, and maybe, in some ways, it still did. But what I had learned, what I finally understood, was that love should never require you to disappear. Right on time, my phone buzzed again, a message from my daughter. This one was longer, carefully written, full of the kind of words people choose when they're trying to fix something, without fully admitting they broke it. Asterisk, asterisk, Mom, I think we started off on the wrong foot. We didn't mean to hurt you. You know how things get complicated with families. We'd really love for you to come this weekend. It won't be the same without you. Asterisk, asterisk, I read it once, then again, slowly. Asterisk, it won't be the same without you. Asterisk, that line almost made me smile, because just days ago it had been perfectly fine without me. I set the phone down without replying. Not out of anger, not out of spite, but because, for the first time, I didn't feel the need to respond immediately or at all. Later that afternoon, Clara called. Coffee, she asked casually. I smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. When I arrived at her house, she was already waiting by the door, 2 mugs in hand. Come on, she said, handing me one. We're going outside. It's too nice to sit in. We settled into chairs on her porch, the air cool but comfortable. For a while, we just sat there, no pressure to talk, no need to fill the silence. Finally, she glanced at me. So, she said lightly, I'm guessing your phone's been interesting. I let out a small laugh. That's one way to put it. She raised an eyebrow. And nothing, I said, taking a sip of my coffee. I haven't answered. She studied me for a moment. Not questioning, just observing. You've changed, she said quietly. I thought about that, had I? Or had I just stopped pretending? I think, I said slowly, I just got tired. Tired of what? Of being available only when it's convenient for others, I replied. Of being included as an afterthought. Of feeling grateful for things I should have never had to earn in the first place. Clara nodded, like she understood more than I was saying. That's not revenge, you know, she said. I looked at her. I know, I replied, and she was right. This wasn't revenge in the way people expect. There was no yelling, no confrontation, no dramatic moment where everything was laid bare. This was quieter than that, stronger than that. That evening my phone rang again. I didn't need to look to know who it was. This time I answered. Mom, my daughter said softly, her voice different now, less rushed, less certain. Yes, I replied calmly. I'm sorry, she said. The words came out quickly, like she was afraid she might not say them if she waited too long. We should have handled things differently. I should have called you. I should have. She stopped herself. I didn't interrupt. I let her speak, because apologies, real ones, need space. We'd really like to make it up to you, she continued. Please come this weekend. We'll do Thanksgiving properly, just us. I closed my eyes for a brief moment. Not because I was overwhelmed, but because I was clear. Thank you, I said gently. There was a pause on the other end. A hopeful one, but I won't be coming, I added. Silence. Why? She asked, her voice small. It wasn't an angry question. It wasn't defensive. It was honest, and she deserved an honest answer. Because I've already had my Thanksgiving, I said softly, and it was exactly what it needed to be. Another pause. Longer this time. I don't understand, she admitted. I know, I said. I could have explained everything. I could have told her how much that message had hurt, how her silence had felt like abandonment, how easy it had been for them to leave me out until it mattered for the wrong reasons. But I didn't, because this wasn't about making her feel guilty. It's not about punishing you, I said gently. It's about choosing myself. Her breathing shifted slightly, like she was trying to process something unfamiliar. I just don't want things to be like this, she said quietly. Neither do I replied, and they don't have to be. That caught her off guard. They don't, no, I said, but they won't go back to the way they were either. Because that version of me, the one who waited, the one who adjusted, The one who accepted being overlooked. She wasn't coming back. We can start again. I continued. But this time it has to be different. How? She asked. By remembering that I shouldn't have to earn a place in your life. I said, I should already have one. She didn't respond right away, but I knew she was listening, really listening. Maybe for the first time in a long time. After the call ended, I sat there for a while, not sad. Not angry, just steady. My phone didn't buzz again that night. No more messages, no more sudden urgency. And strangely, that felt like the final piece. Because the truth is the greatest kind of revenge isn't making someone feel what you felt. It's no longer needing them to. The next day, I went back to Clara's house, not as a guest, but as someone who belonged. She opened the door with that same warm smile. Well, she asked, what did you decide? I stepped inside, feeling lighter than I had in years. I decided, I said, setting my coat down, that I'm done showing up where I'm not invited. She smiled, not surprised, just proud, and as I sat down, surrounded by warmth that didn't need to be questioned, I realized something simple, something I should have known all along. Being chosen shouldn't feel like a reward. It should feel like home.